Well, my guest today is the lead pastor of Mountainview Church in the beautiful city of Whitehorse in the Yukon territory. And God has been using him and the church to revitalize their community and to be a light in the darkness, both literally and figuratively. Jeremy, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's a pleasure. Hey, before we get into the conversation, I want to know, how early does winter start for you guys up there? Is it cold yet?
It's cold. It's definitely, I think the lowest we got now is like -5 just outside of town. Snow will be coming soon.
-5. God bless you, man. Hey, listen, tell us a little bit about what we call your Jesus journey. How did you come to faith and how did you end up, pastoring in Whitehorse?
Yeah, I was raised in a Christian home and did kind of the come to Jesus moment at 5. That happens a lot for church kids, but I didn't really make my faith my own until I was 16 or 17 when a Christian friend of mine shared the gospel in late one night in the parking lot of a church, actually, when I was just feeling really low. And I told him I felt like God was chasing me for something bigger. And he said, well, you probably should submit to that. And I did. And that was definitely the moment where I can remember the very next day feeling changed from the inside out. And from there, it was a journey of ups and downs, as is the case for most believers. But then it led me into a love for the outdoors and creation and our Creator, and it would be a long journey that led me also into ministry eventually.
Well, if you love nature, you're definitely in the right part of the country, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So how Whitehorse specifically? Because we're in a big country. How did the call come for you to get there?
Well, at Bible college, I met what would become my wife, Nicole, and she lived in Alaska. And through a couple road trips up to where she lived, we would pass on the Alaska Highway. You go through the Whitehorse Valley, you go through Whitehorse, and every single time we went through Whitehorse, we felt like this is our home. Wow. It was a very bizarre feeling that both of us felt. And I actually applied to the church I'm at 3 times over 8 years, different positions. And finally, the third time I got the associate position. And then the lead pastor ended up resigning and I became the lead pastor. And I've been a pastor at Mountainview Church now for 10 years.
Wow, I love that. Well, 2 things. First of all, I love the unity that both you and your wife felt as you drove through the valley. And plus 3 times, don't feel bad. It took Peter 3 times as well to respond to Jesus.
Yeah, that's right.
Remind our viewers about what Stats Canada says about what faith is like in Whitehorse.
Yeah, Statistics Canada reports that the city of Whitehorse is the most, what we would refer to as the most secular city, with just over 50% are self-proclaiming very openly either to be atheist or agnostic. Wow. So this stat is more secular than even what most Canadians would think of in Vancouver or Victoria. And so every other person I talk to in the city is either an atheist or agnostic, either rejects God or has no real care, which makes it a spiritually dark place a lot of times, a lot of rejection and open rebellion against any faith idea, never mind just Christianity.
Okay. Well, you use the phrase, spiritual darkness. That's why I said in the opener that God is using you guys to bring not just physical light, but spiritual light. Do you find that the isolation, does that in any way affect people's faith, beliefs?
Yes, especially in the winter. So the darkest day is December 21st, but it doesn't really kick in till what's sometimes referred to as psychologists, the second week of January, which is called Blue Monday, actually, that psychologists call. And we feel it a lot here because it has been dark for a long time. and the nostalgia of Christmas and New Year's is over,
Mm.
and there is high rates of depression, suicide, domestic abuse,
Mm.
all substance abuse, all those markers. By the time the second week of January rolls around, the city of Whitehorse is a low um, uh, feeling, an emotion. It's hard to put your finger on it. Although when people are here, they feel that there's a darkness, there's a depression, not just the cold and the dark, but something more. And as a believer, I believe that it's spiritual oppression, and maybe in certain situations possession, depending on the situation.
I mean, God has obviously called you to a really powerful ministry in the community. I know He's also given you a love for the Word, and you started something called leadbiblically.com. I know that there's a wealth of resources for life and for leadership. Tell us a little bit about the platform and what made you start that, and how has it changed over time?
Yeah, it started with just, I've always been into journaling. And then what was it now? It's probably like 10, 12, maybe 15 years ago when blogs became a thing. I started kind of writing in a journal format that way, and just sharing things that I'm learning in my quiet time and devotional life. And then it just kind of kept going, and it became leadbiblically.com as a place also for me to give resources, ministry help, leadership help, as well as just some personal stories and things that are going on in my life, and how God's interacting in that, how the Word's interacting in that. And so as I put that out there, it kind of became a resource. I think it's over 800 posts now of different resources for pastors and ministry leaders, even just everyday folk that are following Jesus, to get help. And then it also became opportunities to put my work into books, and also to speak to churches, and specifically smaller churches in smaller communities like mine. It's a whole different animal when you're trying to lead a church in a small community. Resources are slim.
I'm sure. And I love that God has given you this passion, and it naturally comes to you and out of you. So you mentioned that you have like a strong desire to support small churches in smaller communities. What are some of the challenges that pastors have, in those smaller communities?
Well, a lot of them have to be bivocational, either half-time or part-time. I'm blessed that I'm able to lead full-time, but not a lot of pastors are. And so they have a juggling role with their ministry that's very difficult. And if a church can't, churches often can only barely afford a pastor, never mind administrative support, never mind like youth and children and music, and a lot of bigger churches that have these. And so you are extremely dependent on volunteer, or even like 5-hour, 10-hour a week part-time staff. And so all the major jobs need to get done in a local church, but you have no choice but to rely on a very, very small pool of people. And it can also be very lonely as well, because there's not many churches and not many pastors. And so, you end up in a small town. It's not like the Baptists can all network together, or the Pentecostals can all network together. In a small town, if you're a pastor, you just find other pastor friends, and you kind of put theology aside, because that's all you got.
I love that. And that's the spiritual family. And then there's like the physical family side of things, because, you're so busy trying to do everything. I know that's a big part of your life. How do you balance your time between your role as a pastor and spending time with your family?
Yeah, I have 3 sons, so my life is very busy. 2 of them are teenagers. One of them's 8. So yeah, life's very busy. But I made a decision early on that I wouldn't split my weekend. A lot of pastors do, and that's fine. They take Saturdays and Mondays off. That's very common. I made a decision early on that I was going to make a choice to have a true weekend, like other dads, or should maybe other dads have too. And so, because I work Sunday's my Monday as a pastor, Fridays and Saturdays, I have a weekend, and so my wife homeschools. My sons do Christian online school. My older sons, my younger son homeschools, and so we try to adjust our family calendar as well, so that Friday, Saturdays, the Norton family still gets a true weekend, even though Dad's a pastor, and that's been a big thing. And then I take my vacation. I'm on vacation right now, other than this interview, and so we're hunting and fishing as a family, and that's
okay.
You have to take your weekends, have to take your vacations. You can't let ministry steal that, or else your family suffers.
Amen. No, I love that. And just as we're, before we wrap up, I know that you log those adventures with your kids, because you guys have you have a YouTube channel, a TikTok account, an Instagram account called the Yukon Boys, and I was jealous.
That's right.
Before I came out here, I was looking at the fish you guys catch, and like I said, I was a little envious of that. So where can people find you on social media? Because I just really want to plug what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. Professionally, it's at Pastor Jeremy Norton. That's at Pastor Jeremy Norton. And then my boys and I, our fun side of social is at the Yukon Boys. That's at the Yukon Boys, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the things. And we would love to hear from you. We would love to interact with you, either pastors that need my help or people that just want to see creation and see the North and see animals and fish and all sorts of wonderful things that the Canadian North has to offer.
Well, you had me at fish. God willing, one day I'll be able to join you, and not just fish, but we'll fish for the people of God as well. Jeremy, thank you so much for taking the time out of your holidays to be with us today. We're so grateful for what you do. We're going to be praying for you. God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for watching. To everyone out there, I appreciate you all so much.
Amen. Stay with us. More 100 Huntley Street after this.